The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the hosts and guests may or may not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Myaamia University.
I am going into my last semester of chemical engineering.
I'm a senior journalism major.
And I'm minoring in supply chain and operations management.
I'm a biochemistry major. Classes are going great. Extracurriculars are going great.
I'm an RA on campus.
I'm thriving.
Hi, I'm Jason Megacy, and this is Major Insight. This is the podcast where we talk college life with amazing students about how to find your place and purpose on campus. Gretchen Spenn is highly involved in both the academic and cultural sides of campus life. As a double major in Kinesiology and Nutrition, she is combining her interests in sport and physical activity with a deeper understanding of how nutritional needs can change as we grow. Gretchen is also the vice president of the Native American Student Association, and she's a member of the Myaamia Tribe of Oklahoma, which is commemorating a 50-year-long partnership with Myaamia University this year. As part of the Myaamia Center on campus, Gretchen is also helping to strengthen this partnership between the two Myamis by promoting the language, culture, knowledge, and values of the Myaamia people. We are here with a very special guest. We are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the partnership between Myaamia University and the Myaamia Tribe of Oklahoma. So I'm going to start off with the question that I like to ask everybody. Who are you?
So my name is Gretchen Spenn, and I'm a junior double majoring in kinesiology and nutrition.
You are involved with the Myaamia Center, is that correct?
Yes, I'm a member of the Myaamia Tribe of Oklahoma.
Awesome.
So it is a center for the Myaamia Tribe of Oklahoma here on campus where we're hosting the Myaamia Revitalization program.
Mm-hmm.
So through that program, college Myaamia students are given a scholarship to come to Miami, and here we kind of delve into who we are as Myaamia people, like what does that mean? And then we learn about traditional culture today, and we get to learn the Myaamia language, like how we live. And they never really officially teach you what it is to be Myaamia, but I think as you progress through the program and mature as a person, and then also like you're gaining a ton of knowledge. And the overarching theme is kind of learning what it is to be a Myaamia person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems like through that, since they don't give you a hardcore definition of what this means, it can be different for everyone, right?
Exactly,
So what does that mean for you?
Well, I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is kind of a hub for the Myaamia community. It's where like traditionally the tribe was located, like here in the Miami, what's it called? The
Miami
Wabash.
Valley?
Yeah,
Wabash?
the Wabash River Valley, yeah. And so luckily I kind of grew up knowing that I'm Myaamia, but I think I didn't have the same understanding, you know? So when I was little, I'd do like the thing in class, like when you're learning about Native American tribes and that sort of thing, I'd be like, oh, well, I'm part Indian. My sixth great uncle is Chief Richardville. So I came from like a very stereotypical understanding to where I was like, I'm part this and this like way back when.
Yeah.
And then I think when I came here and started interacting with the program, it kind of shifted the way I thought about it. And I kind of learned to be like, I'm not part Myaamia. I am Myaamia. I'm a very active member of this community. Like this is who I am, not just a part of me.
Yeah.
And that's a huge bridge to make.
Yeah, so it was before it was kind of just maybe a fun fact that you had to share.
Yeah.
And now it's more, you feel that you're part of that culture.
And I think another shift that was made, I'm a very like white presenting person, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah.
And so when I used to drop that, like, I'm part Miami, they'd be like, okay, like, sure. So it kind of got to the point where I'd expect that reaction. So I would just stop bringing it up, volunteer that information, or really talked about it. And then like when I started learning more, when I started being able to like speak some of the language, it shifted and I kind of gained that confidence in being Myaamia.
Yeah. So what is your favorite Myaamia tradition?
It's not something we do on campus, but in Myaamia, Oklahoma, like where we have our land and the headquarters is located, we do annual gatherings. And it's really cool because especially the winter storytelling gatherings, we can take buses from here to Oklahoma. that's like my favorite cultural event that I get to go to, because then it's not just like Miami University, Myaamia people, or like the people from Fort Wayne. It's everyone from everywhere like coming to Oklahoma, and then we do like our big events. And I think the last time I went to like the summer annual gathering, we got to do elections. So that was the first time I got to vote for like chief and like business committee and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
word.
Yeah.
So before we get into your college path experience, I didn't know that they like elected chief. Is that like a presidential term type of thing, or how does that kind of work?
Like pretty much the same as like a U.S. election. Actually, fun fact, the Myaamia tribe of Oklahoma is like a federally recognized tribe. So we have a constitution and we have levels of sovereignty that make us like a sovereign nation. So yeah, like voting for chief is a part of that. And a really other cool element about that is when we do athletic events and things like that on campus, sometimes the business committee and like Chief Langford will come from Miami, Oklahoma to here. So it's like a cool connection between the two.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now on a more career-based path, tell me when nutrition and kinesiology kind of came onto your radar as a career path that you could possibly pursue.
When I committed to coming to Miami, I had it in my brain that I was going to major in creative writing and be an author. So honestly, they were not at the front of my brain. I came to orientation and I was like, this isn't for me. So I started classes as gen ed, and then I think kinesiology was just something that felt right. I've always kind of been a really just active kid who likes playing sports, and I liked being outside. So like exercise and like exercise science, you know, it felt right. I started taking a couple classes, and then I decided to add kinesiology. And then I ended up in a entry-level nutrition class. And the more we went through the material and like the more I learned about nutrition, I got like more and more interested in it. And I was like, this could be something that I want to get a lot more involved in.
So it wasn't until you came to school that you really understood what you were trying to do, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, cool. So now tell me about your senior year experience. I mean, obviously Miami's in Ohio, you're from Indiana. Why was Miami ultimately the place for you?
So Miami was always on my radar because part of being in the Revitalization program means getting a really nice scholarship to come here, because they want Myaamia kids to like be in the program. So that was a huge factor for me in like deciding where I went. But I think one kind of downside was that it was out of state. It was 2.5 hours away from my home. I only knew one person who was going there. No one else from my high school was going there. So that was a bit of like a scary thing, you know?
Yeah, and it how did you kind of work through that, and what things did you do to become completely acclimated with the environment that you were in?
I think the big thing that really helped is knowing that pretty much every other like incoming freshman is also looking to make friends. So everyone is looking for friends. They all want to like meet new people. So I think for me, I kind of had to overcome the shyness that I had, and I had to like kind of just forcing myself to like talk to the kid next to me in class and being like, hey, I'm Gretchen. What's your name? Like, what's your major? Do you want to go get Starbucks and study for this class together? Even if it didn't work out with that person, I started feeling more and more comfortable talking to strangers, you know?
And more people appreciate that than other people probably know, you know? Because everybody, like you said, everybody's looking to find somebody to at least hang out with for the first couple weeks, even if it's not a friendship that lasts.
Right. I know for me, when I would like feel a little too anxious to like talk to someone, as soon as someone talked to me, I was like, oh, thank God, a friend.
The weight's lifted off your shoulders.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's going to be fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the Myaamia Center and Miami recruited you to the university to be a part of this organization, this revitalization program. But tell me how you started to first interact with it your first year on campus, and how you've kind of grown through this program.
It was a really cool opportunity. On my move-in day, I moved into my dorm, my parents left, and then we kind of had a mini Myaamia orientation to where I got to meet all of the kids in my year. And then we also had some sophomores there who kind of took us on tours around the campus. She's a senior now, and I'm going to miss her so much.
Yeah.
But the best piece of advice she told me freshman year.
Who is this?
Megan Sekulich.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to her.
Shout out to Megan, savior. But use Google Maps. They have the walk feature. So just type in the name of the building, plug it into Google Maps, and you're set.
Yeah.
It was the most helpful piece of advice. And I literally did that today, finding this building.
Yeah. And this is your third year on campus.
It is.
And you were saying it was between two buildings that you like are familiar with. And
Exactly.
You didn't even know that it was a thing.
Yeah, exactly. So Google Maps, godsend.
So I definitely feel that because I think my freshman year I might have walked into a class that I wasn't supposed to do. I know that's like the most cliche college thing ever, but no, it like really happens.
It happens, yeah.
Yeah. So how are you engaged with the center now?
So to be a part of the program, there's 3 years of classes that you go to. So each year has a different theme to it. My freshman year, it was primarily focused on learning the Myaamia language. The second year was on sovereignty and the legal aspect of what it is to be a federally recognized tribe. And then this year we're learning about ecology and the ways in the past that we've interacted with our environment, and then how that lives on through today, and like technology advancements, like what that means for us now. And I think that's another huge thing that we like kind of learn throughout the total years of the course is that Myaamia traditions is not like past tense. Like the Miami tribe is not a past tense history book community. Like it is very much a living, breathing part of who we are, you know? And then currently, on top of doing classes, I'm also the current VP of NASA, which is the Native American Student Association. Yeah. So it's just a student rep club on campus, and we're open to like all Miami students, especially like Myaamia students. We have majority of Myaamia kids, but also we have some indigenous people from other tribes. So it's just kind of a way to like hang out outside the classroom, talk about what's going on here, what's going on in Oklahoma, what's going on in other indigenous communities.
Yeah. And I love the point that you made about the tribe and the culture not being in the past. Like it's now. And I think that's something that a lot of people disconnect.
Yeah.
Because you don't talk about Black culture in a past tense context all the time, right? Or Italian culture, but you know, it seems to get like that with Native American culture. How do you combat some of that conversation whenever it comes up?
Just kind of a big part is helping educate, because I think a lot of people get it in their heads when you talk about being Native American, you think of the Plains Indians with the leather outfits and the headdresses and all that sort of thing. And that's fine, but also being Native American very much transcends that. And the cultural aspects, like the stories, the language, they're all very different. I don't know, when people are like, so you're part Indian. Like this is a very recent interaction I had with someone recently, but they were like, I'm quoting here.
Yeah.
It was bizarre, but they're like, so do you wear like war paint? Do you chant?
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, it's hard to like explain it to people when they're like, so do you live in teepees?
Yeah.
It can be difficult, you know, it can be really frustrating. But I think part of it is just educating where you can and being like, yeah, we have a Miami Revitalization program on campus. And like, it's kind of things like this, just the conversation that we're having, like, is just kind of a big part of breaking down the stereotypes and helping people realize that Indigenous communities are like very much a current thing, you know?
Yeah. And I think, you know, as a Black person, I kind of love having those conversations because, like you said, it does educate.
Yeah.
And it does show people like, okay, this is a teaching moment. You know? Do you appreciate those times where you can act as that teacher?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A majority of the time, like 99% of the time, people are like excited to like learn from you, which is really nice. And then when we do have difficult moments, like a couple of years ago, just because the school used to be the Miami Redskins and not the Red Hawks, at hockey games, there was an issue with the student section would whoop. At a certain point in the game, they start whooping, which is offensive to Native American people.
Yeah.
So their staff at the Myaamia Center, they're like, you do not have to like combat this yourself. There's no pressure or no need for you to like stand up and go,
stop this right now. Yeah.
Exactly. They're like, pass it on to us. That's why we're here. We're your support network. We will take care of it and take the steps needed to start solving this.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. That's awesome. That's awesome that there's this web of support
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of leads into my next question is, what ways have you seen this partnership between the university and the tribe kind of be perpetuated and lifted up?
In my experience, the athletic department here has been a huge they're very excited to be working with the Myaamia program and the Myaamia students here. And there are pretty frequent occasions where they'll have one sporting game devoted to like a Myaamia theme, and they'll put on Myaamia jerseys with the Myaamia heritage logo, which is shared between the university and the tribe, which is like very cool.
Yeah.
So they'll have that logo on them, and in Goggin on the hockey rink, the logo is on all of the seats and it's up huge on the wall. So I think they've been very excited to uplift and demonstrate the connection that they have like with the tribe.
Yeah.
And also we do have the 50th year anniversary, so the school has been advertising a lot more. You can see our Myaamia heritage logo merchandise in Brick and Ivy.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see. It's exciting. And also we just did this is where like more of my nutrition major came in, which is pretty cool, where Western Dining Hall did like a Myaamia themed lunch.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I got to research traditional Myaamia foods like minjipe, which is like Myaamia corn. I got to write a couple paragraphs about how traditionally we harvested corns and just other food elements, and then Western Dining Hall made Myaamia food and served it at a lunch. So that was a really cool thing to do.
Yeah, and the best thing that I think is going on is that Miami's not running away from their past. You know, like a lot of these organizations and sports teams and things in the recent news that have changed over, they kind of just want to wipe away everything that they had going on. And maybe it's because they didn't have this legitimate connection. Maybe that's what it is. There is no real history there. But what we can say, I think we can both agree, is that Miami is trying to cultivate and not bury what was going on and really nurture this partnership.
Yeah, and I think one of the more exciting things about that, I totally agree with what you said, and also like there aren't a lot of other universities in the US or like other programs like this. So I'm like very super lucky to be like a part of the Revitalization program. It's really cool and exciting to be here at Miami and experience it, because there aren't a lot of other indigenous communities that have this like resource. So.
And before we move on, you keep mentioning this logo. For those that don't really know what it looks like, do you want to explain how it looks and what it means?
So the Myaamia heritage logo is not copied off of, but it reflects and symbolizes like Myaamia ribbon work. So it has two elongated diamonds that meet at a square in the middle, and in the middle of the square there's a red circle, and the circle is kind of meant to symbolize a fire, you know, because fire needs tending, and there needs to be work on both the university side and the Miami tribe side to keep the relationship between the two like living and breathing and healthy and continuing to burn for like future incoming Myaamia students. It's really cool to see.
Yeah.
All
right, so now on the academic tip, because not all your time is spent with this organization.
Right.
What kind of classes are you taking? What are you enjoying? Any teachers you want to shout out?
Yeah. On the kinesiology side, because I have to like separate them in my mind, otherwise it gets crazy sometimes. But I'm taking like anatomy and anatomy lab, and also in the past, I think last semester I took it's a class about like how the human body moves, and that class was very, very exciting. Dr. William Berg, he's my shout out. He was so cool and is so, you can just like tell that he is so incredibly like knowledgeable, knows so much about the human body, and he gets really excited when he's teaching. And those are the best kind of teachers, because then you don't really feel like you're in class. You're like, oh, I get to learn today. And then on nutrition, I'm in life stage nutrition, which is like basically it goes along with the name. Like you learn from when a woman is pregnant, what nutritious needs she has, what kind of diseases may accompany a poor diet and that sort of thing. And then you learn about infancy and the nutrition with that, and then being a toddler, and then being an adolescent, and then a teen, and then a young adult, and then like an older adult. And then I'm also in nutrition and disease prevention. So that's a nutrition lab. Phillips Hall has a really kind of elaborate food science lab.
Yeah.
So those have been like super fun classes. it's been really cool to get in there, like kind of experience what it would be like to work in the food science industry and like in a kitchen. So those are really cool.
That's awesome. Now, in a perfect world, where does this take you?
So that's a very good question, and I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
Right now, my plan is to graduate, get my degrees, my undergrad in kinesiology and nutrition. I'm kind of planning on taking a gap year just to kind of like explore those.
Yeah, recalibrate a little bit.
Yeah, get into like the workforce with then one of them and like feel it out, see what I like about the industry, what I don't like about it. That's a really nice thing about like nutrition, especially that I've learned. A lot of people in the nutrition program here graduate and then go on to become a registered dietitian. So what that means is that you get your undergrad in nutrition with a concentration in dietetics, and then you would go on to get your master's and take an internship program. And then the really nice thing about being an RD is that there are endless possibilities that you can do with that.
Yeah.
You can do a clinical setting, and within the clinical setting, you can do neonatal or pediatrics or like renal and kidney and transplants. I'm not sure what I want to do yet, but I think the possibilities are really endless.
So kind of rounding it out and thinking on a broader level, how has being involved with this organization in the Revitalization Project impacted your overall experience here at school?
Being in the Heritage Project is a huge part of what I do, who I interact with. It's a really big part of like my life here on campus. It started out as like making friends. Having like that smaller group of people made it a lot easier just to talk to them and make friends. And then I think as I grew in understanding my Myaamia identity, I also kind of had that like parallel growing as a person. I've learned so much about myself through that, you know? And then also it's helped me get involved in ways that I don't think I would have found otherwise, you know, because I do a lot of like intramural sports here, which is so incredibly fun. I highly recommend. But like we have a Myaamia broomball team and a curling team and a volleyball team. That's been super fun. And I am in other clubs. I'm in like the SNAP, the nutrition club and things like that. But being in the Myaamia community, it doesn't just stop at the classroom. It doesn't stop at like extracurricular things that we go to. It's very much a community, you know? It's just been like kind of a huge impactful part of being here.
Yeah. And I love what you said about how it doesn't stop at the classroom. And off of that, I want to get your thoughts on how do you plan on continuing to cultivate this self-growth and this connection with your culture after you leave the university and after you leave the program?
And that's a really good question, because that's kind of the whole point of having the revitalization program, is so that not only like are you the student learning, but you're going home and teaching it to your family and to your Myaamia relatives who didn't have that same privilege of going here and learning it themselves. The point is to like breathe life and education and this better understanding of what it is to be Myaamia and breathe that back into the community. Because up until like really recently, like late 1900s, there was like a time and period where pretty much the culture just kind of went dormant, you know? So I think we had forced removal from the Wabash River Valley, and then we got sent to Kansas, and then uprooted from Kansas again and sent to Oklahoma. And then it got to the point where like it was kind of a generational thing, but it was bad to be Indigenous and you didn't talk about it, and you were a U.S. citizen, and that was the priority. And it kind of got to the point where like the language wasn't taught, the culture wasn't taught. And then along comes Darrell Baldwin, the literal certified genius, who was able to somehow read these recorded documents from the French who would stay with the Myaamia community and like observe. And we had those documents, and then we had recordings of elders speaking Myaamia. And he was somehow miraculously able to like bring back the language. And then it became, well, how do we teach this to people so that more Myaamia people learn? And that's how the Heritage Program came about here. So like the point of it is to, for me, it's like learn for myself and then go home and teach my mom who's Myaamia and teach my cousins who are Myaamia, so that it reaches the whole Myaamia community, you know? One quote that I remember really well from class a couple years ago was like, it's up to like my generation. You know, you decide what happens with this. You can either not teach it and it just dies with you, or you keep it going so that your kids and the next generation have this sense of cultural identity and like what it means to be Myaamia.
Yeah, that's probably got to be both anxiety inducing and, you know, super exciting at the same time, right?
Yeah, is exactly like both. It's a responsibility. It's like the Peter Parker.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, with great power comes great responsibility.
I love that.
But it's cool. It's something that I will like gladly do.
Yeah,
so
most definitely. And I think that you will reach all those goals just from the way you talk. You're very proud of who you are.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can tell that you take pride in all the things that you're involved with. So
well, thank you.
Yeah. And so the last thing that I need you to do is, I know you speak a little bit of the language, so can you say thank you for listening in the native language?
So I don't know the for listening part, but Newe for listening, guys. Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on. Gretchen Spenn is studying Kinesiology and Nutrition here at Miami University. As a member of the Myaamia tribe of Oklahoma, she is also active on campus as the soon-to-be president of the Native American Student Association and is part of the Myaamia Center. And thank you for listening to Major Insight. If you enjoyed this podcast, share with your friends or anyone interested in navigating college life. Many more episodes are now available wherever you get your podcasts.